With every breath, in every waking moment, I'm reminded that within this world today, my identity is a crime. Being Uyghur is a crime, and for this offense, I pay dearly. My name is Zilala Mamat, and I am Uyghur. I am the only Uyghur undergraduate at Cornell University, and it's because I am Uyghur that every night I wonder whether my family will live to see the next morning, whether they had even lived to see that fall of the night. My grandfather's name is Ubul Nur, and of his being, of his soul, his name is all that remains. Because when he passed in November of 2022, his body was dumped by the Chinese government in a random field in an unmarked grave. We are given coordinates, 2 numbers, to remember him by forever. I used to be able to remember the warmth of my grandfather's arms, the size and shape of his hands against mine. I used to be able to remember his laughter echoing through the halls of our house as he sat reading on our balcony. But it's been 6 years since I last saw him, last heard from him, last smelled him. And it's the last I will ever see of him. My grandfather who called out for my mother and for me. In his last moments, I couldn't even say my last goodbye. The Uyghur genocide did that to us. The Uyghurs are a Turkic ethnicity native to East Turkestan, with a culture and language distinct from the Han Chinese. The country lies vast in size and rich in natural resources, with crisp blue mountain ranges of lithium ore, rolling fields of endless cotton, and a myriad of natural oil reserves in the Tarim Basin. There exists one feature, however, that has left an irremovable target on the region. East Turkestan borders 9 different countries. And in China's eyes, it is the one obstacle between linking China and the rest of the world. In China's eyes, it's a region that cannot be let go of under any circumstance. East Turkestan is now known as the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China after its collapse in 1949. It has been since then that the Chinese state has exercised the authoritarian regime and exercised the slow erasure of the Uyghur identity, forcefully assimilating them into a people that will willingly accept the destruction of their own land, their own history, and their own individuality as an ethnicity. The year of 2015 marked the beginnings of what would become the Uyghur genocide, as the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, embarked on its construction of concentration camps, miles in length, hundreds in quantity, across the span of East Turkestan. It is within these camps that the innocent are faced with torture, systematic rape, live organ harvesting, forced labor, indoctrination, and ultimately, death. The year of 2018, I turned 14. My first year of high school, I got my first phone, I bickered with my parents about the mess in my room. I felt grown up for the first time. A typical year for a very typical teen. That same year of 2018, just halfway across the globe, Raila Ömer turned 15. Maybe she was also in high school. Maybe she too had her first phone. Maybe her room was also messy. But for Raila Ömer, 2018 was not a typical year because she was not a typical teen. In 2018, Raila was detained from her home in Kashgar, East Turkestan, and taken into a concentration camp. she was never seen again. That year, as Raila Ömer forever lost the rest of her life, the Chinese government denied any existence of concentration camps, citing them as US propaganda and mere accusations. But when satellite imagery of expansive prisons and expansive camps surfaced, suddenly it was China that was exposed for their lies. Suddenly it was China that was exposed for their lies. Today, I'm almost 20 years old, and today, Raila Ömer could have been 20 as well. She could have been here, studying amidst us, or even standing in my shoes, instead of me. But she committed the crime of existing as an Uyghur in China. And now, just like my grandfather, all that is left of her now is her name, Raila Ömer. But Raila Ömer is far from just one. She shares her fate with Bilqis Abdurrahim, who at 19 was detained for simply being a student at university. Or Arzagul Abdurrahim, my aunt, whose reason for detainment is unknown. We only recently found out that she is no longer with us today. Her childhood, intertwined with my father's, amounted to a future cut short, a future that has left behind just her name, Arzagul Abdurrahim. The year of 2021, in the face of international backlash, the Chinese government finally acknowledged the existence of concentration camps, but instead branded them as re-education centers in which terrorists, separatists, and those harmful to society were taken into. But when leaked documents showed young girls and young boys, people's sons and people's daughters, being detained for no reason, suddenly it was China that was exposed for their lies. The year of 2022, 2,884 images of detained Uyghurs from 4 years prior were leaked from Xinjiang police files. They originated from a small prefecture in Kashgar, East Turkestan, the same prefecture of my father and of his family. It was through these 2,000 photos that we combed through, holding our breaths, hoping and praying we wouldn't find a familiar face. How many can we say are alive today? For how many was this picture their last breathing moment? The year is now 2024. As we sit here in this very second, breathing this very air, over 3 million innocent Uyghurs rot in concentration camps in China. Over 3 million lives drowned in not only the oppression of an authoritarian regime, but the deafening silence of the world, of us all. Because though there exists 6,483 miles in between us, it takes just one shirt to connect you to Raila Ömer, whose fingers could have sewed together the hoodie on your shoulders, or Arzagul Abdurrahim, who could have put together the shoes on your feet. Almost all products imported from China are stained with the blood of Uyghur forced labor. Maybe my uncle, my aunt, maybe Raila Ömer. The top 5 clothing brands in the world are all linked with Uyghur forced labor. And so when the tag of your shirt says made in China, how far away are you really from this? Your bubble can only keep so much from you. The blood and labor of over 3 million tether us together, and yet, who is one victim you can name? Almost 10 years of this genocide. And when last was it on the news? This is neither something accidental nor simply overlooked. Since the beginning of what became the Uyghur genocide, the Chinese government cracked down on any information regarding the plight of the Uyghur people. Concentration camps in East Turkestan span miles, stretch hundreds in number, but photos are rare. Videos are almost non-existent, and voices are completely stifled. The Uyghur genocide has been a crisis that has moved in silence and in darkness. The evolution of modern-day media has led to a society deeply dependent on visual imagery and jarring depictions to be able to form connections and understand issues beyond their own bubble. So, in the absence of graphic photography and distinct observable evidence, the Uyghur genocide was quickly wiped of its deemed relevance and deemed importance. The year is now 2024, and today, denial of the Uyghur genocide's mere existence is something that is not uncommon. Beyond just remembering victims' names, we are at a point of denying even their victimhood. It is in our first step of remembering that we can reclaim the power stripped from us. Each of us may be small, but our voices are sacred. And if silence is only broken when there is nothing left to do but mourn, how is it that we can call for change? Around each of us, there exists a bubble of blissful ignorance and of blissful privilege. We consume what we see and tend to recognize only what is visible to our naked eye. But in front of you today, maybe a classmate in your lecture, maybe a member in your club, I stand here as an Uyghur that you know. So really, how far away are you from this? Within each of us exists our memory, a collection of our thoughts and of our experiences. Our memory is what constructs the history of our generation. What we recall determines what is real and what is remembered. Not only what we perceive now, but the legacies imparted on future generations. Memory is so simple, so inherent, and yet it is what the Chinese government is trying its hardest to suppress and to eliminate. Because just remembering makes it real. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you to sign petitions and go to protests and, donate all your money. Whether you act upon what you've heard today is not something that's up to me. It's up to you. I do ask, however, that you remember. Because even in your mundane, day-to-day life, your memory is an act of resistance. History itself is memory. And this genocide, beyond just being a war on the Uyghur people, is a war on memory. And whether you realize it or not, your memory is a weapon that you wield, one with great power and great influence. With every breath, in every waking moment, I'm reminded that within this world today, my identity is a crime. Being Uyghur is a crime. But a sense of determination and hope lingers within me. Because if it's not me who remembers Ubul Nur and Arzugul Abdurrahim and Raila Ömer, then who will? The past cannot be changed, but the future lies malleable in our hands, in the hands of the world. And it's time to wake up to the world beyond our own bubble and remember that there's life beyond just your own. Thank you.